just leave people dangling there. So I've got a little novella coming out in the next month or so.
Oh, awesome.
Called The Funeral.
Okay.
So have your tissue boxes handy. It's going to be very, very short, but it's just going to talk about that particular couple of days leading up to the funeral.
Up to Sal's funeral?
Yes.
Now, in the next book or in this book, are we going to find out what happened to Malcolm?
Oh, Malcolm. He's an elusive one. He's a slippery one. But he's actually part of a whole bigger program. A lot going on. And it's over the course of the entire series that we find out that Malcolm is just a little piece of the puzzle. That what's going on runs much deeper than Mike O'Shea's desire to shut him down and this one Malcolm fella's desire to get away. There's a whole underworld going on there. And as the series goes on, we get deeper and deeper into the world that Malcolm is a part of. And the challenge is for Mike to get close enough to get into that world and pull out what he needs without falling into it himself.
Okay.
Your description of between the shootout when Sal was shot and then with the fire in the building and Mike trying to get people out and himself out, I was choking while I was reading it.
Oh, God.
It was
a good thing, I hope.
Yes.
Absolutely. When a book takes you there, that is a very good thing.
That's the way I like them, when I feel like I'm part of that story.
Wonderful. Well, you'll love the next book. The next book, Death Before Coffee, will be coming out in February. It jumps ahead about 13 years. So everybody's a little bit older, a little bit more cemented in their personality types, and they've all moved away but kind of come back again into the same investigative unit, and they carry on from there.
Yes, I saw on your website you have a countdown to the book release.
Oh, I know. And I look at it and I think, oh my goodness, it's getting closer and closer.
Now, I assume that some of this is pulled from real life?
Yes.
Are these all real cases?
You can't make this stuff up, you know. Well, I mean, one of the great things about writing real crime fiction is that you can take from what you know and then give it the spin you want. Because in real life, it's not quite like that. I've been a detective for 15 years, and so many times the case doesn't work out the way you want it to. The victims, the complainants, they don't get the satisfaction they deserve. They're not heard in court. So by writing crime fiction, you give them that opportunity. And that's what I look at. And so I take little bits and pieces of cases I've been involved in, and I just tweak them a little bit and make it a little nicer.
Well, I could feel their frustration when they're watching this house and watching the prostitutes coming and going, and they get burned. Twice.
Yes.
I mean, not just once. You just feel like, ah!
And that actually happened. You'll have a specialized unit or a couple of officers who are doing something, and for whatever reason, they haven't communicated it to everyone else because policing's very big.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different units, a lot of moving parts involved. And so the information can't possibly be communicated to every single person. And people sometimes trip over each other a little bit.
Doesn't anybody communicate?
As far as Mike O'Shea goes, would you say that he's your alter ego, or is he just an amalgamation of people that you worked with and knew?
Well, he's a little bit like me. Very clever and devilishly handsome, of course. He's a little more lackluster, and he takes quite a pounding, I must say. I mean, in this book, he narrowly escapes death. The next book, he narrowly escapes death. I don't think anybody could live through all of that. Although, having said that, when I sort of look back, if I pick apart in the last 30 years, a lot of those kind of things have happened, but not in that close a proximity of time as with Mike O'Shea.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a little bit more gregarious than I am, a little bit more headstrong.
Did you happen to have a partner killed during your time as a policeman?
No.
Well, that's fortunate.
That's good.
No, I've been involved in police shootings. I have been involved in arrests of individuals where the person arrested had killed a police officer. And it's an incredibly emotional time. It's very charged. And as is alluded to in the book, it also becomes a very public spectacle. So it's a difficult event to process because it's you personally, and then you're reading about it in the paper, and then people are asking you about it. So it's very, very public. It's a challenging time.
Yes, and there's always a great deal of ceremony. We unfortunately have to deal with that too often here in Maryland. Maryland, right outside of Baltimore.
Yes.
We have that happen too often.
And I get that's what the funeral is about. The little novella is about the ceremony involved and some of the rituals involved. Also the personal impact on the individuals who are part of those ceremonies and those rituals.
Yes.
And I think you're really going to like it.
Good.
I'm not sure you will.
I'll look forward to reading it.
And then what authors inspire you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm kind of a binge reader. I'll stumble across an author or an author will get recommended to me and I'll read everything I can find from that author. Recently, I've been reading some Peter Temple and just really interesting because he talks from different perspectives, like the same characters from different perspectives. And I liked Peter Temple because he's very gritty. And then someone just out of the blue recommended Simon Brett.
Yes. Very good.
So much fun. As you know, I mean, he's fun, he's witty, his characters are funny, they're quirky, and it's just really, really a good read. That from the Mike O'Shea books, Mike's mother, Mary Margaret O'Shea, in the second book, you get a bigger sense of her, and in the third book that's coming out next fall, it's tentatively called, I think it will be called Man at the Door, she factors largely, and she took off as her own character. And while I was writing the Mike O'Shea books, they got, they're kind of heavy and they get a little bit intense. I just started kind of tinkering away with Mary Margaret. And so I've got a whole cozy series on the go.
Oh,
that's
good.
Premiere. And it's Mary Margaret, and she's just funny. She's just a character.
Still cooking corned beef and cabbage?
Yeah.
Of course she is.
That's it. If you don't like the corned beef and cabbage, I'm sure we can get something else for you.
God bless her.
Well, it's funny. Yeah. We've talked to other authors, and it's amazing that speaking from two people here who do not have a creative gene when it comes to writing. No, this is our talent. Writing, no, you don't want to read anything we've written, but we're just amazed.
I can't write a grocery list.
So what we're amazed about is that these characters kind of take on a life of their own and they hijack their story and they want to be heard, what we're hearing from a lot of authors.
Well, that's what happened with Mary Margaret. In the third book, I've got a tremendous investigation on the go, and it's moody, and Mike O'Shea is putting together the dots of what's happened with Malcolm and why he's not being caught. And then Mary Margaret steps into the book. She hijacked. So I just had to give her own series just to get her out of the book.
Do you have a title for her book?
I don't yet, but it's going to be a whole number of books because she just keeps going. She's a powerhouse unto herself.
Well, most Irish women are.
Yes, I know. And she has tenacity, but just an ability everywhere she looks. She's like a magnet. Wherever she goes, there's something is going wrong or sorting out and needs her, and she steps in. And so it's just going to be probably the Mary Margaret cozies or something like that.
Oh, when are those going to start coming out?
Well, I was just actually speaking to my editor yesterday, who was saying, can you please just start shipping those to me to get editing, because I need a break from all the emotion.
The heavy stuff.
Mike O'Shea, I just need a good laugh. So I'm thinking they'll probably come out sometime, maybe next fall, maybe even January of 2020. But I'll let you know.
Definitely, and
we'll let our listeners know.
And actually, when those come out, we'll have you back on and we can discuss her series.
Oh, that'd be so much fun. I'd love that.
Oh,
Thank you.
That would be great.
Thank you.
We are so grateful that you reached out to us to be on our show. I did not get a chance to read the book, but Mom has just been going on and on, so I am definitely going to read it.
She has to read this one.
Yes, definitely.
Mama knows best. I'm like Mary Margaret. Mama knows best.
I take my lead from her, and she has done nothing but rave about this book since she's read it.
Thank you so much.
I just can't wait for the next one.
And I have to get it read before February, so I'll be set up to read that one as well.
Death Before Coffee.
Death Before Coffee.
I like the title.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Is there a little backstory you can tell us about that title?
Well, there is.
Without giving away too much?
Yeah, well, as you know, cops love coffee, mostly because cops need to stay awake. So the backstory to that is that there's Mike O'Shea, and he's older now. He's a little bit more mature, a little more worldly and all of those things. And, all he wants to do is get a decent cup of coffee. And every time he turns the corner, some calamity befalls him. So all he's trying to do is get a good cup of coffee.
Well, even in the first book, he complains about the coffee, that Sal's always bringing in the lousy coffee.
That's Sal. Man.
Oh, I'm going to miss him as a character. I hope there's somebody to take his place a little bit.
Well, what happens is you'll recall Ron Roberts, the traffic cop.
Yes.
And so in the next book, time has passed, and lo and behold, Ron Roberts is now detective.
Ah.
And, without giving away too much, he and Mike become unlikely partners.
Oh,
great.
And as you would know by the personality of Ron Roberts and the personality of Mike OShea, they make quite an interesting
oil
partner.
and water.
Yes, pretty much.
Well,
yeah.
No more, they don't do this in traffic. That's what he kept saying in the book.
Oh, he never loses his traffic background.
Oh, he doesn't. Okay.
Because in real life, once the officers who investigate traffic accidents and fatalities, they are what we divisional guys would call a breed of their own. They're very rules and regs. You either went through the stop sign or you didn't. Whereas, divisional guys, it's a bit different. So Ron Roberts never loses that traffic man outlook.
Oh.
Yes, I think you'll like it a lot.
Oh, good. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, great.
Okay.
For the listeners who aren't police savvy, what does 1033 assist PC mean?
Well, there's a 10 code. It's like a 10-4, as we all know. Means like I've heard you, I understand. 10-8 means that you're clear, ready to take a call. 10-7 means you're at the call. 10-33 is the most serious call an officer can make. And what that means is if the officer is breath of his or her life, they issue a 10-33. And so anyone who's listening drops whatever they're doing and they race lights and sirens to help.
Oh, okay.
And so if an officer is taking a report somewhere or at a traffic stop, if they hear a 10-33, they stop the report, they hand the documents back, whatever they're doing, open their cars and go.
You put that in the book where the driver said, thank you.
Yeah.
So is that a code that everyone uses?
Is it standard across?
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty standard, yeah.
Oh.
And that's exactly it. You just drop everything and you go.
Okay.
Okay, well then we know that it meant business.
Yes.
One of the first comments she made about the book was that it read like a true crime to her.
It didn't sound like I'm writing for TV and this is how the good-looking cop is sitting here. And
right.
You using the word gritty, I think, was a great way of...
It was definitely gritty.
The book is written for people exactly like you. People who like crime fiction. They are bright, intelligent.
That's us.
That's you. You don't want to be talked down to. You don't want a convenient ending.
Exactly.
You want to get the real deal. And that's what I have to offer as a writer. And I'm showing also what goes on in the police officers' heads.
Right.
Because I've been there. I've been the rookies sitting in the car. I've been doing the undercover stuff. I've done all of that stuff. Yeah. So I have an idea of what's going on as opposed to just making it up.
Well, you could tell that when you read this book. You knew what you were talking about.
That's great. And I'm so glad you loved it.
I did love it. If I didn't like
Believe me, she doesn't have a filter. If she didn't like it, you would know.
Well, I've listened to a number of your podcasts. I am familiar.
Mama does like Mama thinks.
Yeah. You and Mary Margaret.
Yep.
You don't need mincing the words. They mince themselves.
That's right. That's right. We thank you again very much for taking time to talk to us. And
my pleasure.
All right.
Great.
And we thank you and thank your wife and Ben for helping get us connected.
If it was not for my wife, I would not be anywhere near where I am now.
Well, that's a good man to admit that. A lot of men wouldn't admit that.
Then they're fools.
Take care.
Same to you.
Good night.
Very well. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a good interview. It was well worth the read, and I'm looking forward. I'm going to read both of his new ones, and I can't wait for Mary Margaret's series. She is quite the character even in the first book. She's not in there that much, but she cooks dinner for her family, and you are expected to be there, and you are expected to eat. And if you don't like her cooking, she thinks she can find something else for you, but I wouldn't guarantee you're going to eat it.
What she made you. Well, yeah, that does sound really cool, and I'd love to have him back on when he releases those.
So, Desmond, you have an open interview invitation to come back in February and promote your second book, and with the Mary Margaret series, I definitely want to get a read of that.
Nice to have an author that can pull from experience and nobody's talking about it. And you're
and
right.
you can tell the difference if you read a book by somebody who's using their notes from what somebody's told them,
or read it online.
Or read it online.
There's a huge difference to that. I mean, it's a different genre. Stephen King, that's why he writes about Maine, because that's what he knows. He knows Maine. It's a sense of place. It's a sense of characters.
And he knows the